In today's video, I am sharing a technique that I've never shared before, and I don't believe I have seen this done this way before either. This is a big deal, you guys. I know I've made some big claims here, but trust me, you're gonna want to watch this. Like I said, we are going to be doing something new on this channel today, and what you're going to see me do is transform this scrap piece of art into something absolutely amazing using some expanding foam, just your regular construction grade expanding foam. Now, this piece is actually a scrap piece. It was basically a flower 3D bloom that I was attempting, and it's not gone as per plan. I did save this to pour over it at some point, and when I was about to show you this technique, I thought this is the perfect starting point. We're going to transform this, but like I said, you could apply this technique to anything. You'll understand more as we go along, so I'm just going to get started and explain as I work. So what we're doing now is making a base for the tray thing that I showed you. So we're going to work on the base first, which is where the expanding foam comes in. And then we're going to move on to work on the top surface, which is fixing the 3D bloom flower situation. So first thing I want to do is lay out some cling film. It is regular cling film from my kitchen, nothing special about this one. And what I'm going to do is spray over some regular construction grade expanding foam that I got just off of a DIY store near my house. So just follow the instructions on the foam, fix the little straw thingy that comes with it, and we're going to foam the dimension of the top surface that I'm working with and a little bit more than that. So you'll know as we go along, but I've just traced out the surface on the cling film for now, and I'm going to get foaming. So I, in this instance, want a really thick base. So it's entirely up to you how much you layer on the foam. And I know this is making very little sense right now, guys, but trust me on this, it'll all work out in the end, and you'll be surprised what we actually ended up making. So going over heavily with the foam, I'm kind of going roughly around the size of the surface that we marked out and just filling it up with foam. Okay, so I am happy with the amount of foam I have down. It's quite a thick layer and it looks like a nice fuzzy cake at this point. Now I'm going to literally drop our top piece in the center of it and see how that looks. I do want the foam to come over the side, so if I feel like there's some areas which have less foam, I'll go fill those up, and then I'm going to wrap the cling film over the top surface. What this is going to do is create kind of an edge, if you like, of the expanding foam around our substrate. I ended up using some tape, just clear tape, to kind of make sure that my cling film stays where I've pulled it over, but if I had a bigger piece, I probably wouldn't need to do that. Also, I want to thank Key Energy for watching, liking and commenting on my videos. I appreciate your support ever so much. Now, in some areas I felt like there wasn't enough cling film to pull over, but that's not an issue. I just cut out a little bit more, took it around the bottom, and then just kind of pulled it over the existing cling film and then taped it over. And once everything is secure, I'm just ever so gently poking the foam over the substrate. I know it all seems bizarre at this point, but trust me, we're gonna wait for this to cure for 24 hours.
The next day.
Okay, so it's been 24 hours. The foam seems quite dry, but when I tried to look at the underside, it seemed still soft. So I just flipped the entire thing over and let it dry for another day.
2 days later.
Finally, the next day, I was able to pull out this cling film because my expanding foam was completely dry. I did try and be careful with it, although it should be quite solid by now. So this is what we're working with. Now, I do have some areas on the top surface that ended up getting like a few little drops and, you know, splodges of foam. That's obviously nicely cured. So I'm just using a little blade, a scraper rather, and just getting rid of that foam because I do want a nice smooth surface. Once I've done that, I'm gonna give this a good wipe. Once I've cleaned this up with some baby wipes, I'm gonna go over with a thin line of UV resin around the edge of where the foam meets the substrate. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to make sure that I have a defined barrier because we're going to be filling the inside with a resin and I don't want it flowing over. And I think this will also ensure that the foam and the substrate are completely and entirely fixed together. Once my UV resin was nicely cured and I had that barrier, I took this outside and spray painted the entire bottom with some gold spray paint. Again, I just had some gold lying around. Use any color you want, and I'm going with gold, and I'm just going with a couple of layers on this on the bottom for now, and then once the bottom is dry, I'm going to do the same on the top edge of the foam. And don't worry, the spray paint is going to end up on the top surface of your substrate, but it doesn't matter because we're going to cover that up anyway. So for now, just focus on covering the entire foam bit. Okay, so my spray paint is completely dry. Next, we're going to move on to some resin. I'm going to be using geode-inspired 4-hour fast cure resin for this. And we want to go ahead and seal this foam because it is still not a material that can withstand like daily wear and tear. And we want to make sure that it's nicely coated with resin and is rock hard and sealed. So I'm starting with the bottom first, and then we'll do the top after. And I'm just going to massage this resin into the foam and over the sides. This I find quite satisfying when I'm just massaging on resin on something. It's oddly satisfying to me. Okay, so this is now cured and it's solid. So we've only done the back yet. Now let's work on the front, and then we're going to cover this entire thing with resin again. Now at this point, you could do anything in here. What I want to do is a marble, and you have probably seen this on my channel before, but I'm going to use this transfer sheet marble. This particular one is called Jade, and I love it. It's got like a subtle green, earthy tones, and I feel like with all of that gold going on, this would be amazing in the middle to kind of balance all of that out. What I need to do first is apply this foil adhesive. It's by Artsy Wool, and I'm going to link the foiled as well as the adhesive in the description below. They're from Artistic Painting Studio. I love this adhesive because unlike some others, you can apply this one, and once it gets to a tacky stage, which is about an hour, depending on your thickness, it stays that way for hours, a day, a week, a month, until you come and put the foil on. So there's no window as such, which is not the case with many others. So I quite like this. I'm using a little brush, and I want the marble to be inside of this little UV edge that we did. So I'm not going to go over the UV edge. I'm just going to apply this on the inside. Once I have it over the edge, I can then go quicker in the middle. Okay, I'm happy with that coat. It comes on as white and then it dries out clear. So I'm going to leave this to dry and we will come back and foil this. Okay, so we are now dry, and the way you can tell this is it's tacky. So if you just put the back of your finger, you can tell that it's tacky and nothing is coming off on my finger anymore. So we are good to go with the foil, and I am probably going to cut it a little to size just for ease of handling. Right, let's cut it here. So I'm just going to spread it out, and then we're going to start rubbing it in. Now, I'm not the best person to learn how to apply these. I'm going to link the channel where I get these from, and then it's probably best that you follow their tutorial. that's not what this video is about. So I'm gonna speed this up.
I'm just using a little spongy thing that I have and just applying a bit of pressure and pushing down the foil on the adhesive.
A little later.
How easy was that? I absolutely love it. Now we are gonna do a bit of cleanup on the edges. So I'm gonna get my gold pen out and we're gonna do just that.
Also, Sky would like to do some stretches and remind you to like, comment and sub. So I just used a gold pen to go around the edge and neaten that up, kind of the area where the foil meets the UV resin.
Okay, now we're ready to seal this entire thing with resin.
Final thing to do is to coat this entire thing with the resin, and once again I'm using the 4-hour fast cure resin by Jade Officials, and we're going to literally slather this with resin. Now remember, we don't have resin on the top portion of the foam, so make sure you go over that as well. Now if you are wondering about drips, let me give you a tip. What I like to do after the resin has stopped dripping, which is probably about an hour and a half, but honestly that depends on how your resin is and the temperature, etc. But once it's stopped dripping and it's not dripping anymore, you want to spray some isopropyl alcohol on your gloved hand and just come over the bottom and use your gloved hand to kind of smooth it out, and it'll do the job perfectly. This is also what I did when we did the bottom to make sure that I didn't have drips on the top portion, and this will work on any substrate and it works every time, and this is the pro tip from this video. Now because this piece is so lush, I ended up doing a little velvet backing at the bottom of it, and I'm finally ready to show you what it looks like.
I hope that this use of expanding foam in this project has inspired you in some way. I love how this turned out. Leave me comments and let me know what you think of this one, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye! If you've enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you will like these too, so go check them out.